Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar, Online Pilot Pre-Selection with Safety Screening Air. My name is David Brieber and I will guide you through this webinar today. If you have any questions in between, I will ask you to use the GoToWebinar tool. There is a box where you can post your questions and I would be pleased to refer to them at the end of the webinar and answer all these questions. So let us start. The corona pandemic hit the airline industry hard. I think this is very obvious and clear. Due to the measures taken to fight against the pandemic, there were massive restrictions on people's mobility. Airports were partially closed, tourism completely collapsed due to travel restrictions, quarantine regulations, various lockdowns, and also business travel was greatly reduced. A recent report by the Air Transport Action Group shows that compared to April 2019, April 2020 saw a 94% decrease in the number of passengers. And this, of course, also led to a global reduction in flight staff by half around the world. Despite these gloomy news and this critical time, the industry is nevertheless actually optimistic that air traffic will pick up again in a relatively short time. In the long run, air traffic is expected to grow by 2.7 to 3% annually over the next 20 years. Of course, this also means that there will be a renewed need for personnel in safety critical occupations such as pilots or air traffic controllers. We all know that pilots carry a lot of responsibility and they must therefore meet certain physical and mental requirements so that they can safely control an aircraft. The selection of pilots therefore involves a great deal of costly and time-consuming effort. Checking these mental abilities requires an extensive psychological testing. And today, I want to show you and present you SAFESC Air, a screening tool which can help you to optimize the pilot selection process. Screening procedures are naturally used quite early in the selection process, of course. Often applicants are pre-selected on the basis of certain must-have criteria that can be found in their resumes. And all applicants who meet these criteria are sent out invitations for a screening, and the screening test can be then completed online by applicants regardless of the location. The screening then makes it possible to identify those applicants who are unsuitable, so people who do not meet important cognitive requirements such as a high level of concentration, for example. So in the end, we have a smaller number of applicants that we can actually invite to more comprehensive on-site testing to ultimately select the most suitable applicants that we will actually train and hire. The applicant pool that is now invited for more comprehensive on-site testing is not only smaller and therefore less time-consuming and costly to test, but the candidates in this pool are also more likely to actually be successful in the on-site testing because certain basic abilities have already been identified. In addition, the on-site testing gives us the opportunity to validate the results from the screening. So let's first take a look at which mental dimensions can be tested with SAFESC Air and explain why these dimensions were selected. On the left-hand side, you can see a list of cognitive abilities and personality traits that are of particular relevance for the selection of pilots. All of these dimensions can be found in the guidelines of the International Air Transport Association. They have been used in the selection procedures of various military and civil organizations, and all of these dimensions have been identified in empirical studies as relevant predictors of a person's flight performance. For SAFESC Air, those relevant dimensions were then selected. On the one hand, whether they have a high predictive validity, and on the other hand, whether they can be measured by test paradigms that also work well without additional input devices and which are suitable for online testing. These dimensions are tested by free tests. The inventory for testing cognitive abilities, INT, the attention and concentration test, TACO, and the Big Five structure inventory, BFSI. INT includes two newly developed subtests, a so-called matrices test for measuring logical reasoning, a subtest on arithmetic flexibility for measuring numerical abilities. Both subtests and its tasks are adaptive and time limited. TACO, on the other hand, uses kind of a visual search task as a test paradigm and is also time limited per task. In addition to these cognitive abilities, short questionnaire or parts of the questionnaire BFSI can also be used to assess the personality traits, emotional stability, and conscientiousness. Applicants can complete these tests in about 40 minutes. The testing is carried out in the internet browser, so all that the people need, the applicants need, is a stable internet connection. So otherwise, safety screening Air can be performed regardless of device, browser, or location. The process of such a test is very simple thanks to the use of SAFESC within the Vienna test system. Basically, you add a person to the VTS person database and just send out links to these persons with basically one click. The persons can then independently work on these tests on their PC, on their tablet, on even the smartphone. As soon as these tests have been worked on and are processed, they are synchronized with the system and automatically evaluated. Let's look at this evaluation in more detail. So on the one hand, you can see an overall values. This is the so-called SAFESC index, which combines all of the test results of ability and personality dimensions and shows us the suitability of the applicant as a percentage value. On the right side, you then also see a star rating, which puts the whole thing into perspective and gives us basically a 3-level system, which includes content related consideration as an interpretation add to make it easier for us to assess whether a result of X% is now rather good or less good. Not every dimension is equally relevant. So when calculating this overall value, we take these differences in relevance into account and weigh the results of the ability and personality dimensions based on empirical findings, and then calculate the overall score. In addition to the quick overview that this overall score can give us, we of course also have detailed information about the specific dimensions, which are also accompanied by this traffic light system, which also gives you a good overview whether specific dimensions are still in the green zone or whether there are any conspicuous low results here. By the way, this SAFESC index is ideally suited for comparing applicants and creating a ranking. Of course, you do not have to do this manually, but VTS does this ranking automatically for you. After the screening test results are available, applicants can be invited to an on-site testing. How you proceed here is of course up to you, but there are basically two options. Either you define the so-called cutoff score for the SAFESC index, so a threshold value basically that applicants must reach in any case in order to proceed. This approach has the advantage that all applicants must meet the same minimum criteria also over time. However, it is important to keep in mind that depending on the performance level of the applicant pool, sometimes more and sometimes less people will be allowed to proceed. A second option would then be to just simply rank all the applicants and always invite, let's say, the best 30 applicants to the on-site testing. Of course, it's also possible to combine these two options. So what happens after the screening? In the on-site testing, a comprehensive psychological testing can be performed in which dimensions can also be measured that are not feasible to do online. For example, let's think about eye-hand coordination, for example. If you use SAFESC and the VTS, you also have the right tool for such an on-site testing, which is the test set safety assessment AIR, SAR. With test set SAR, you can now easily measure all relevant cognitive abilities and personality traits in a comprehensive manner under controlled condition. And at the same time, it also allows you, of course, to verify the results from the screening. If you, I just wanted to mention it here, if you want to have more information about test set SAR, you can find it on our homepage. Basically, this combination of online screening with SAFESC AIR and on-site testing with SAR, this can not only be used for pilot selection, but we can also think about it maybe for using even for periodic testing. So one possibility could be that, for example, only those pilots had to appear to a comprehensive on-site psychological test session, which are conspicuous in the screening, which is conducted in advance. For example, people who are below a certain cutoff need to come to the on-site testing. This would, of course, on the one hand, reduce the effort on the side of the pilots, but also on your side as a test administrator. So let us summarize these things that I just tried to inform you about. So the key features, what are the key features and benefits of SAFESC Air? So SAFESC Air is a screening, it's an online screening method that helps you to optimize the personal selection process by reducing the applicant pool and eliminate unsuitable applicants at an early stage. SAFESC Air measures cognitive abilities and personality traits that are highly relevant to pilots. The advantage for screening is that it can be done online and therefore is independent of location, independent of which device you use, whether you're using, I don't know, a Windows or an Apple a laptop, or if you which type of browser you're using. So it's a very open system, and SAFESC Air has an automatic, easy to understand and scientifically validated evaluation, which enables you to make quick and objective decisions. And with TestSet SA Air, the VTS also provides a comprehensive test battery that can be used for any subsequent comprehensive on-site testing. Finally, I would like to show you a best practice example so that you can see that the processes and which I just suggested here are already being used in practice. So, for example, the Arctic University in Norway conducts the selection of pilot candidates in Norway, and the procedure follows a strict selection process in which in the end not more than 25% of the applicants are accepted. As discussed and as I've shown you in this last 15 minutes or so, also the applicants of the Arctic University of Norway are first tested with SAFESC Air. So they are screened online in an unsupervised manner with all of the tests I've shown you. And then with this way, the applicant pool can usually be halved, and these people are then comprehensively tested in a second step with TestSet SA Air, so that in the end only small group of applicants are accepted. In the last round of testing, these were actually 12 persons out of 150 persons. So I hope this gave you, could illustrate the benefits and the usability of online screening in the pilot selection process. I hope I could give you a quick overview and a good insight into SAFESC Air, and I thank you very much for your interest.